Hey everyone, so grateful for our journey together on the Substack feed and YouTube. And I am excited to show you the cover of my second edition of Culture Care, which is coming out this July. And in order to celebrate this conversation about culture care, I have interviewed my dear friend Daniel Nayeri, author of many, many wonderful books that has won multiple awards. And here is one of them, Everything Sad is Untrue, a true story. Um, and this conversation was so fun because I haven't seen him in a while, and it just brought back all these memories. And it turns out that when we met, it was just after 9/11, and we were all going through trauma, and his stories are actually full of these modern day traumas of um, people going through exilic existence, unjust treatments, religious persecution, and all of that packaged in his life, captured in his stories. And but they are also filled with humor. And this recording, which we will separate into three parts because it went for about an hour, and it's just the majority of it is laughter. So I apologize if it may be a little hard to hear some of the words because we're just cracking up in the middle of it. And it was such a also a beautiful example of cultural care. And we talk about that as humor being absolutely an essential part of cultural care communities, how joy filled ways that we can have a conversation about very serious topics right in ground zero can bring healing to many, and more importantly, for the participant, it might be a genesis moment for them to go back to their studios, go back to their writing desks, and begin to create something for the future, partly because we are faced with this wasteland or ground zero or whatever you're facing in life, this trauma induced reality. And rather than running to culture wars, which is a rhetoric of reducing humanity and pouring toxins in the very grounds of soil of culture that we are standing on, therefore, no one wins culture wars. Instead of that perspective, how about we begin to create these little communities of joy that anybody can do? It doesn't require an artist, but it is something that we all need to move forward. We are celebrating 250 year anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in America. But all over the world, this is a marker of some kind to look back and to realize what we have been able to produce in culture and how we have failed at it. And most of it for me is a reflection of lament and repentance of what we have failed to do. But I offer instead this idea that perhaps we can look toward next 250 years with visions and dreams and laughter. We posit this possibility through this interview with Daniel, who has had an amazing journey as an author and editor. So um, here's the first part. A lot of laughter involved, warning label, but it's also uh, a conversation hopefully will bring you into the cultural care conversation that we had in Tribeca in early 2000s. Oh, great to see
Hey,
you.
You too. You too. It's been too
Oh,
long.
I know it's been too long. When was the first time we met? Did you come to the I
Oh.
Am Culture Care space 3839 near Bryant Park?
No, the first time we met was in 2001, like late
Oh my
2001,
gosh.
where there were like I was like 19 years old or something. There were a bunch of students at NYU, and there was a
Oh, that's
Wednesday
right.
morning
Oh,
arts. Like it was like kind of like mythological to me. And it was at 7 a.m. It was like 6:30. It was at like an hour that college students do not
no,
arise.
no, I
And
remember.
it was in
All artists.
downtown. So like real subway train had to happen for
Yeah.
us. But me and three of my roommates, we were told like, you've got to go to this thing. It is at the No, it was at the
Tribeca,
Bakery back then
yeah,
in
yeah.
Tribeca.
Robert De Niro's, which was after 9/11, the only
Yeah.
place that was serving coffee, and we thought it would be crazy enough to
Yeah.
meet early in the morning there just to have
Yes.
coffee.
Well, and you had like such a delightful like amalgam of there were like a lot of artists who were sort of
Yeah,
very
yeah,
established, sort of older artists,
yeah,
and then like babies like us. And by the way, the De Niro thing was funny because I was just remembering this. I was getting on, and I was like, when I was thinking a similar question, and I remembered this one time that the conversation about art had gotten heated, as it sometimes would, right? Like these people are
yeah,
like really passionate, and they're
yeah.
talking about someone just goes like, what do you mean? Like, don't you know any like working artists? And all the young ones were like the way we were arranged. We were looking down the way, like three booths down, and Robert De Niro was sitting right there eating a Danish. And I was like, I think we could just raise our hand and ask Mr. De
Yeah,
Niro,
Mr.
like,
De Niro.
what does he think?
Yeah,
But,
Tribeca Festival now, used to be film festival. Now it's a festival. It's going on right now, which was
oh,
something he
nice.
started, and we really wanted to support because, after 9/11, below
Yeah,
Canal Street, business were, really struggling, and we just wanted to do something crazy enough. And that kind of turned into a regular thing,
yeah,
and I think we switched places a couple of times, but John Stewart would come with his family, sit
that's
next to
right.
us. And
It was wild time, but every Wednesday it's 7 we would sit with lot people who knew a lot more than us,
yeah,
me, not you, and then
yeah,
like and you would ask these questions, right? That were
right.
sort of the
Yeah,
beginning of a lot of these topics.
right.
And it would turn into just this long 2 hour
Yeah,
winding conversation about art and just where its position is. Obviously, the fact that we were in
yeah, yeah.
Tribeca
Hmm.
September 11th,
Hmm.
that loomed pretty heavily over the
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
We'd all been there, and so I remember those times really fondly. There were sort of some of the first times that I watched, yeah, as I said before, these sort of impassioned
Yeah,
speeches on the topic of art, right? Like, I
yeah.
mean, getting like a independent film director to scream at a album cover designer
That's
over,
right. Yeah.
why art is important. And my eyes were huge, and you were always so good about, trying to bring some semblance of
Oh.
calm to the talks, and I was
Oh
along for the
my
ride.
goodness. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. A lot of it was the beginning of what we call culture care. We
yeah,
were trying to straddle, mediate this, what became this severely polarized culture, right? The culture wars
yeah,
outcome is, you kind of demonize the other side, and you win by demonizing the other side. So you're basically pouring toxins into the soil that you're
yeah,
standing on, and your territory is shrinking. And then, people are like, especially churches get caught up in this.
sure.
And so I think, we were at ground zero, faced with this real with reality of devastation and losses. And I think we wanted to certainly have something to look forward to,
Yeah,
um, as artists, but also as people of faith, we really wanted to posit something in that culture. Is it possible to be an artist? Is it possible to write something that is hopeful and not just filled with cynicism?
Sure.
Is it possible to be a movie critic? Alyssa Wilkinson was part of
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And, she really had this thought that, well, there's a lot of critical reviews that are just purely cynical, just
Right.
poking fun or intentionally trying to do real damage actually to the product that they were reviewing.
Yeah.
And she obviously has had a different perspective, and now she's a New York Times critic. So, so, and your career has been
Oh,
such a joy to just behold and celebrate. So,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes back to these questions of, I mean, back then, it felt very urgent to be sitting in that place and asking those, like the very fundamental question of why art?
Hmm.
Like why are we doing, like
Mhm.
there are firefighters,
Yes, right.
20 blocks that way or 10 blocks that way,
And then they were like coming in and getting coffee.
yeah. And so, I mean, you really have to have a good answer
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
real, otherwise,
that's so true.
otherwise, I think you're forced to kind of move into an utilitarian
Yep.
space where you say like, I have to take this bagel to a human right now, and if they
Hmm.
don't, and
Hmm.
the only good I am is to offer this
Hmm.
bagel, and that's is true as well. Like we have to sort of think along the terms of just like the needs of
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
but to kind of sit just for a moment and
Hmm.
take like an hour and a half
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
week and say, but also
Yeah.
what is the urgency of art and
Hmm.
where do we need it? And I think a lot of artists themselves consider that
Hmm.
a very hard sell,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is why like secretly there's like so much despair
Yeah.
in the artist
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
whether it's through at the moment because of like whatever is coming. We're like these sort of sea cucumbers, right? And that's a
Yeah.
feature because it
Yeah.
means we kind of take in the zeitgeist of what's happening. It's sort of flowing through us in a permeable way
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
allows us not even to understand when we are reflecting,
Yeah. Yeah.
the concerns of the moment. But at the same time, it allows for that toxicity you mentioned to completely take root and for us to really buy into these visions of, well, this is a frivolity and there's no utility to
Hmm.
frivolity.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
and I thought it was a weird time, as
Yeah.
we know, but it was such a fruitful moment where, as you said, like some of these very basic principles of wait, we have to we have to cultivate, we have to care, so to speak, and
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
this culture. If not, then this will go careening out of hand very fast.
Very fast, and it has.
Yes, yes, as at times. Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah.
So that was my first conversation, section of a conversation that I had with Daniel, and we ended with joking about where we are as a nation and as a culture, and you might think, well, that's easy to laugh at this, but the reality is very grim. And we realize that both of us, we understand that the stakes are high and the pathway seems to be narrow. And yet, we are in a similar cultural reality as we were sitting in Ground Zero, Robert De Niro's cafe, um, post 9/11. Smoke hasn't cleared yet, literally. There were fireworkers coming in and going of our cafes. And culture care is written in such a time as that. And as we think about this re-release of the second edition, we can ponder upon since that time. Um, it would be wise to think about what does that mean for next 25 years? And then expand that thought to what about next 250 years? What are we giving into, seeding into culture and passing it on to the next generation to grow, hopefully, fruitfulness rather than decimation and devastation and creating more ground zeros? Um, what can we do? And those are things to ponder about as we end this segment. And I want to encourage you to create a group in your local settings, whether it be a church group, whether it be a cafe group, whether it be an arts group. It can be almost anything. But creating small, particular communities of care is what culture care is about. And we love to hear what happens when two or three meet in regularly in a month. Perhaps use these videos to talk about what they're going through, hear each other, pray for each other if you're Christians or religious in any way. And then let us know what happens. It may actually take 25 years for that fruit of your labor, seedlings that you planted to come to bear fruit. But we will also have indications that things are growing. And even if it's a small indication, we love to hear about that and share that with our larger group through our newsletters, through the Substack. So we appreciate your continued support and continued journey with us. Thank you and God bless.